Hello, world. It is Monday, June 22nd, and it's a very warm and humid day in Defiance. Trying to be sunny. I think it's supposed to be another hot and humid one today. Tried to go for a run today. I did go for a run today, but it took it slow, took some breaks. It was just too warm for me, and my legs felt like lead, so that's what happens sometimes. Today's devotional is entitled Direction and Division, written by Quinn Caldwell. And Quinn bases his devotional on the prophet Micah, one of my favorites. Micah chapter 7, verses 5 through 6. New Revised Standard Version. Put no trust in a friend, have no confidence in a loved one. For the son treats the father with contempt, and the daughter rises up against her mother, and the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And Jesus actually echoes that in Matthew that we heard on Sunday. So Quinn writes, Yikes! Alas for Micah, to be alive at a time when direction has become so unmoored from truth that friends no longer trust each other, when truth has become so unmoored from fact that loved ones rise up against each other. Alas for us too. Not that every cause of division is bad. There are good reasons one might surrender oneself from another. Anyone who's left an abusive relationship or stopped talking to a racist or homophobic uncle can tell you that. It's hard to know fully the reasons for the divided state of things today. Is it because what's right and true is subjective and unknowable? Because someone shadowy is feeding the world misinformation to create discord for nefarious purposes? Because some people know what's right and true while others are wrong? In a world so divided that nobody agrees which way is up, what's east and what's west, Micah lands on this: I will look to the Lord. The poles that used to give direction may be shifting. The world may be all subjective postmodernism at all the time, but for Christians, there's at least one thing to rely on: the grace and the gospel of God. Of course, that's only as good as someone lost in the wilderness. Sorry, say that again. Of course, that's only about as good as someone lost in the wilderness knowing which way is north. It doesn't tell you where you are or where you're going or what's between here and there, or if the people you're with will agree where you ought to go. But it's a whole lot better than nothing. Prayer. When everything is shaky and the world seems directionless, help us look to you, our bright North Star. Amen. A lot to think about in Quinn's devotional for today. And it does describe our world to a T right now. There is so much division and so much anger. And we can't ever seem to have conversations, solid conversations, where we truly listen to one another and try to find common ground between us to work together. Instead, we throw memes at each other and negativity, and it just doesn't work. Something has to change. Somehow we have to start seeing some truth in one another and talk about what we can do to work together to really make a difference in this world. And maybe that is focusing on God in our lives, on God's love in our life, and what that really means. And for me, that's focusing on how each and every one of us are children of God. And when we look at one another and see one another and talk with one another, we see and recognize that they too are God's children and that they bear the image of God just as we do. We've got to start somewhere. Maybe God's the place to start. Talk to you soon.